Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Singer's Toolbox. Today's episode is going to carry a lot of opinions for those that are in the classical singing world. These opinions range from singers wanting to experiment to well meaning teachers trying to give advice that they've heard. You might have guessed it by the title of the video, but today we're talking about crossing over into musical theater. Now, there's a whole lot to be said about this subject, but I'm only going to be glancing the surface of this today. If you like these videos, you want to help us build the channel, please make sure you click on that like and subscribe button. Find me on Instagram. I always put all the resources that I mention in these videos in pictorial form on Instagram so that you all know that they exist and you can find them. And if you want to join the conversation, help me build this channel, please join the Discord that I built. I'm trying to structure it so that everyone gets a little of what everyone needs, and if you have something to say, hopefully there is a part of the Discord for you. Now, I'm going to start this off by saying I am not an expert in crossover repertoire. I collect, that's pretty much it, and I've done some concerts, so my knowledge base is very minimal on this. But I really have to thank two people in particular for this video. Hannah Goodman and Nicole Karrs. You can follow their social media. It's linked down in the description. But Hannah is a very proud SAG-AFTRA, AGMA, and Actors Equity member. She sings all over the place from LA Opera to creating original cabaret shows, and she's also co-starred in the hit television show Glee. So, a whole lot of experience there, and I had some great conversation about her for this video. Nicole Karrs graduated from Muhlenberg College, starting in musical theater and then transitioning over into opera. She's currently pursuing her DMA at Stony Brook, and she teaches both musical theater and classical techniques. Today's video is going to be in three parts, guys. Today, we're going to be talking about ideas in selecting ideal MT repertoire, or musical theater repertoire, what these resources actually look like, and then some important tips about crossover competitions, especially like the Lotte Lenya and the American Traditions competition. Now, American Traditions is kind of a whole other kettle of fish. I'm going to do a separate video on that, especially drawing from some of my friends who do more pop-based repertoire and stuff that falls more into the American Traditions mold. So there's going to be some information about Lotte Lenya, and there will be timestamps. So if there's information that you specifically need, look in the description for timestamps. You can get what you're looking for. So with that, let's start getting into some information here and start talking about what actually makes a book and how one goes about crafting their character. All right, everybody, so let's get to some brass tacks here about what it means to build a musical theater book and what it means to audition for these shows and present yourself. So this has been part of a long series of conversations I had with Nicole Karrs and Hannah Goodman. And again, I really have to thank you guys for contributing to this because I've never actually done an open call before. So this comes with some experience behind it. First of all, and this kind of came as the number one thing to communicate in this video, is know thyself. When researching and exploring this repertoire, it is so absolutely important to know how you present yourself and what kind of type you are. Now, but we're not talking about physical body type. We're talking more about what emotional expression you give in an audition. Not necessarily something that's contrived, but how do you give yourself off to that person who's trying to make a casting decision? It's definitely not about stereotypes, but it's kind of about finding those 2 to 3 descriptors that can help you frame your character for your presentation. All right, like the biggest example that I got, and this is kind of like what I crafted with both Hannah and Nicole, is let's look at, say, the ingenue, right? Are you a Kelly O'Hara ingenue, like Light in the Piazza, very tongue-in-cheek, Cole Porter kind of style? Or are you a, like an Ava Noblezada, like Hadestown, gritty, sassy, resilient, right? It can be extremely useful to ask your rings of interaction how they view you. So start with your family, move to your friends, go to your colleagues. This will help you gain a better understanding of how you're perceived, which makes your presentation much more smooth and natural. Research your singers. Okay, find performers that sing the repertoire that you're exploring, like female Disney or Rodgers and Hammerstein. You might look for Laura Osnes. By exploring these artists on services such as Spotify, the AI can recommend similar artists and albums and lead you into places you would have never thought you'd gone. Hannah mentioned for me that when she looks up Laura Osnes, that the more that she searches around, there are certain songs and shows that she would have never known existed, all because the AI just puts it into the playlist or makes suggestions for a playlist for her to follow up upon, and then you do the research and you find the music and the shows. Also, you definitely have to know what show you're auditioning for. Like, when you're auditioning for a show, it's not like auditioning for an opera, where we get to sing the arias that come from the show because they want to see you in that role. In musical theater, you're trying to find things that are adjacent. So, especially if it's a new show, get as much information as you possibly can. And then try to fit these selections for your book into what they're trying to look for, especially the genre and the mood, right? Which is kind of where usually people fall flat, because they just pick their opera singers might pick their songs that they're good at rather than trying to capture the mood of the character that's trying to be cast. Also, know exactly who you're auditioning for, and this is a point that Hannah made, was find out if you're singing for a music director or a casting director. Most auditions, you start with singing for the casting director, and then in that case, you don't have to sing something that's obscure. You can sing something that they'll probably know, but it also really has to show those character traits that you've established from the very beginning. You don't just need to look for the character that you're auditioning for. Again, don't try to go for a stereotype, but you want to try to have it be like a living person. Music that really showcases what you can bring to the character emotionally, not just a carbon copy of what they're expecting as the character. If you're singing for the music director, a more obscure selection might actually be appreciated, especially if it really shows off your character that you've built for yourself. Because some of these shows that are random, no one's heard of, the music might be absolutely beautiful and showcase that specific trait that you're trying to get across. But most definitely do that for, say, a music director who can appreciate it, rather than a casting director who might not know the show. And with that, let's transition into actually finding some of these things, what your sources are, and how you can go about not just getting the sheet music, but getting the right sheet music. All right, everyone. So now we're coming into my domain and how to find the sheet music. Before we start going down the rabbit hole, guys, I'm going to start you at the very beginning and bring you down to what you really absolutely need in that toolbox when you start looking at becoming a gigging singer, and you just kind of need the repertoire now, and you don't want to buy it online. You just want to have it in your library. We're going to start at the very beginning of musical theater anthologies. And to me, that's really the Singer's Musical Theater Anthology. This series has saved me a whole bunch of times. I don't know about any of you. Let's start having that conversation down in the comments and the Discord. But this series is definitely the place where if you need to find some golden era stuff, some modern stuff, just to start going down that rabbit hole and finding the show or the particular piece, this is a really great place to start. Now, I got to make one caveat about this. And we will talk about this when it comes to Lotte Lenya. But this is also not the be-all, end-all when it comes to competition, because there are notes in the book, even though in the preface it says that they take from the original sources, there are notes in the book that say that certain things have been edited, recomposed, lyrics changed to make the edition a little bit more friendly for individual performance, right? When you're doing competitions, say like the Lotte Lenya or American Traditions, you can't really do that. It's an easy way for them to take points off of you. We'll talk about that more, but this is definitely a great place to start when you're trying to find a resource, just so that you can go through your book, pick out a quick MT piece for like a concert or a recital. Singers Musical Theater Anthology all the way. Definitely recommend. At this point, it's 7 volumes. And like I said earlier, opera singers, look at the first 3. But if you're obsessed like me, go buy the whole thing. The next portion I want to get to here is anthologies that are more for specific composers, right? They have them in sets, they have them as individual volumes, and in this case, I'm going to show you 2 examples. One of these brand new, again, I'm going to talk about this in my score haul coming up, but this is the Sondheim for Singers edition. Again, caveat about this, same thing with Musical Theater Anthology, right? That there are bits of this that Sondheim himself has recomposed the ends, changed some lyrics to make it work. There are also some songs in here where the keys have changed to make them more accessible for tenor voice. So be really careful when you're doing competition with these, but guys, this is, I mean, Sondheim is really hard to get your hands on in the best of days, so an edition like this is really something that's invaluable for any voice part if you're trying to spice up that list of arias with a musical theater thing. But again, put it into context. If you're actually auditioning for musical theater, use all the advice that I used earlier about crafting your character. But this is great for concert work. This is great for a nice research jaunt into Sondheim, and to really start getting serious about finding things that are not just glitter and be gay, right? So great place to start for your Sondheim research. The other composer I wanted to bring up, and this is a little bit more Lotte Lenya, and a kind of a good place to start if you are looking to audition for these competitions, is something like the 2-volume Kurt Weill song set. This is great, guys. As soon as I found out this existed, I think I had volume 1 and then I hunted down volume 2. And this has kind of a smattering of everything from some of his operettas to his musicals further down the timeline. Definitely doesn't have everything. I've definitely been stumped in trying to find some stuff when people ask me questions, but this is an incredible place to start. The 2-volume Centennial Anthology for Kurt Weill songs. The next thing I wanted to bring up was there are anthologies out there if you're specifically looking for a character kind of song, like a comedy song or a torch song. There are anthologies for that. This one didn't really make it into the picture for the Instagram. I might go and add like a supplement later. But this here is the Broadway Comedy Songs book. And if I remember correctly, yeah, published by Hal Leonard. And as you can kind of see on the price tag here, I do a lot of my searching for sheet music at the Strand, so definitely worth going there, looking through the bins. This was from several years ago, but this is a great resource if you're looking for songs to start your rabbit hole search for comedy material, right? Not necessarily the be-all end-all, and again, guys, always be careful about your anthologies, but this here is definitely a great place to start when you're looking for something in a particular character vein. Last of all, I wanted to talk about the actual finding the vocal scores. Now, guys, piano vocal scores for musicals are just as expensive, if not way more expensive, than opera scores, okay? So this is kind of one of those, I will tell you, always try to find them used, but in like good condition, but they're definitely easier to find used. I'll do a video on this later about resources and how to find music, but definitely worth scouring eBay and other places to try to find these. This I found at the Strand years ago, but kind of keeping on the Sondheim trope here, we have our full piano vocal score for Into the Woods. Now, I have to, again, always with the caveat, Be super careful about those selection books. Actually, don't even be careful. Don't use them. Again, they're a good place if you don't know a show and you're like, whoa, this is in the bin and I've never heard of this and this must have been. It's good to have it to know what the songs in the show are so you can look for them. But don't use selection books when it comes to like auditions or even concerts, because a lot of the times those keys are not the correct keys. If it happens that you find a selection book and the key is maybe a little lower or a little higher and it's better for your voice, then yeah, totally, it's a useful tool to have. But man, I have talked to so many music directors just over the years who have absolutely told their singers, like, please don't buy the selections books, because it's really not worth it when it comes to bringing the music into an audition. This is really what you're looking for, especially for competition. These full piano vocal scores. It's going to have all of that like underpinning music, all of the scene change stuff, and you really kind of have to dig through them in order to find the stuff you need. But man, what a resource, right? Again, I'm going to do a video on how to actually find these things, the different websites that I use and the different bookstores that I go to. But all you guys really need to know is that these full piano vocal scores do exist. You really gotta dig for them. The last thing I wanted to bring up in this section, and it's not an absolute necessity in your toolbox. This is just kind of like a flex moment, but also in the days of COVID and we can't go to the library. These are books you would usually find in a library, but sometimes you can find them used in a bookstore, and if you do, grab them. Like, don't let them go, because they're really hard to find. This here is the American Song, the Complete Musical Theater Companion, 1900 to 1984. This is more of an index, guys, and for those of you who might know the Kobe books, or the Kobe book, the resource for opera singers, where it kind of lists out a whole bunch of shows and what the roles are and the basic synopsis. The first volume of this is basically that, where it's a composer, and then it tells you all of the shows that they wrote, a basic synopsis, list of the songs, things like that, characters. And this is the first volume. The second volume that I have is the index, which is especially good for anyone who is falling down that rabbit hole, maybe knows the composer, knows the show that they're looking for, but trying to find something that like pivots around an idea or pivots around a certain show. That index is so useful. Just so that rather than blindly searching on the internet, you kind of have a book that you can go through, get a couple of ideas, and then have a more constructive search instead of staring at a computer screen for several hours and wondering why you can't find the information that you're looking for, or trying to crowdsource it. Go to a published source, because a lot of times these people put a whole lot more research in before it's actually published. And with that, guys, let's go and start talking about what goes into the Lotte Lenya competition. All right, guys, so we've come to the portion of the video here that I think a lot of you have come to see, which is guidelines for the Lotte Lenya and American Traditions competition. Right now, I got to preface again, I am no expert when it comes to this competition. I definitely did a lot of talking to Hannah and to Nicole to find out how one goes about doing well in this competition. And again, I'm just your guy trying to fill your toolbox here with as many useful tools as possible. So one of the first things that we came up with in conversation was one of the greatest pitfalls for singers, and that's read the manual. So there's a lot of stuff on this Lotte Lenya website as far as what to sing, what not to sing. It lists past competitors who have won. And one of the greatest suggestions that I got from Hannah actually was look at the people who've won in the past, not for the pieces that they've sung, but for the narrative that they've created and the mood that they try to set, right? It can really help and be inspiring to kind of think about what shows are they selecting and why. And then also even just looking at some of these obscure shows and seeing, is there a piece in there for me, right? Definitely worth looking into. And Lotte Lenya actually does you a favor and has resources on the website for how to go about finding these scores, requesting assistance in finding sheet music, especially if it's in the Kurt Weill catalog. So use those resources, guys. And I also want to say before we go any further that this is by no means a complete section on things about Lotte Lenya. I do want to have a larger conversation about this, and there will be a larger conversation when it comes to American traditions, but I can't have that without you guys. So again, look at joining the Discord, put stuff in the comments. I'd love to continue this so that we can kind of keep honing in and help each other on this journey of opera singers crossing over into musical theater. So I said this before with the sheet music portion of this, but be really careful where you source your music from. Okay, it is a very common problem, and sometimes it can even cost people competitions because of just a couple of points in one direction or another, sourcing their music from the wrong spot. Okay, as I said with the musical theater anthologies before, the Singers Musical Theater anthologies, you cannot use them as a be-all, end-all for finding your music. And I'll give you an example, right? I was just looking in the volume 6 that I just bought, and I sing the competition from Sweeney Todd, right? Or sorry, yeah, it's the contest. I sing the contest from Sweeney Todd. And in this volume, it says specifically at the very end that Sondheim changed the lyrics at the end for a more entertaining way to finish it if you're doing it as an individual piece outside of the show, right? So that's a big no-no for the competition, right? You got to look at stuff that is from the original score so that it falls within the guidelines of the competition, right? When you're looking at additional resources for these full piano vocal scores, right? You have to make sure that you're looking for the right edition, because sometimes there are shows that are revived and they come out with like additional piano vocal scores, things like that. Make sure you're reading the instructions for Lotte Lenya to see exactly like what's allowed. And I believe that if you have any questions about rules, you can contact them to make sure that you are in line with what they want. So, in conclusion, guys, we've been on a really fun journey at this point, looking at the sheet music, looking at the fun books, and the process of being a musical theater singer for the auditions and the competitions and things like that, right? But I really also wanted to point out that it's not just about the fun research and the fun resources, but doing the work, right? Not just being an MT singer or an opera singer. There is no spoon, right? So it's about the internal work that we do to become more effective performers, more effective people when it comes to doing our jobs. That's really what we're filling our toolbox with here, right? So singing crossover is not just about expanding your higher ability. It's also just about becoming more flexible. You know, we all know as theater folk that most of the work takes place in the rehearsal room, right? And you have a director who really wants to challenge you and help you grow, and it might require you to be a little bit more vulnerable. I would always recommend as an educator that when giving stuff to your voice students, give them the MT, because a lot of stuff, it's in our language, and it gives them an opportunity to explore how these themes affect them, not just as singers, but as people, and what they can draw on. And it just makes them more effective at their job at the end of the day, right? So again, everybody, this is not a complete conversation. This is just throwing something out there as a result of seeing some posts on Facebook this week, some people that are crowdsourcing their repertoire for these competitions, and I just wanted to give a little bit of guidance. Again, I am no expert on this, and I used a lot of help to create this video, and I want to encourage all of you that these are the conversations that you have to have, finding the people who know these things to help you build your own personal knowledge base, right? So this is kind of the point where I want to ask you guys to let's all help each other here and especially help me to bring you more tools for the toolbox, join in the conversation. Click that like and subscribe button at the bottom there. Join the conversation in the Discord. Give me some ideas how to even make this video better for the future, right? I'm definitely going to make an additional video for the American Traditions competition. So join me. Let's do this all together. And hey, guys, have a wonderful day building that toolbox.